All right, welcome. So, if you're like me, you've probably been listening to a lot of this Diddy trial coverage, and you're probably sick and tired of hearing about the same story time and time again. Different faces, different names, minor details are different, but it's always the same story, it seems like. So I've been watching how news networks have just been covering the juicy details for ratings, showing pictures, showing text messages, all just like a form of entertainment, right? Not really with any deeper purpose in mind to help society in any way, which really frustrated me because I'm thinking, how are we actually going to educate and inform and learn, as women, as men in our society? How are we actually going to learn and make better choices for ourselves so that we don't find ourselves in these kinds of situations, right? Well, clearly we can't depend on the media, on the news. It's not their job, right? It's not their job, and we can't expect them to care that much about us, ladies and gentlemen. We can't expect them to care that much about our own well-being and our decisions to take the time to inform us and educate us and provide us with things that are going to help us make better choices so we don't end up like these stories, so that we reduce our chances of ending up like the next Cassie, the next Diddy, the next fill in the blank of any celebrity or any person that's been in the news with an abusive situation. Now, I have to specify, this is not victim blaming. This is not about justifying any kind of abusive behavior. There is no excuse, there is no justification. So, this video is not about victim blaming, and it's about informing ourselves, educating ourselves so we can reduce the chances of ending up in either a situation of an abuser or a situation of a victim. Depending on where you are and what you're dealing with, you could potentially be either. So my goal is, by sharing 3 pieces of information in today's video, that can help at least one person make a better decision so they reduce their chances of ending up in that situation. Nothing in life is guaranteed, of course, but ladies, we have to start educating ourselves. We have to start listening to things that are going to give us knowledge, and knowledge is power, and we can make better choices with the right knowledge. Information for our own lives to make better choices. So let's start exchanging information and let's take care of one another. All right. First thing, take the time to learn about your wound, about your trauma wound, right? Take the time to learn about your pain. Everyone has something. Everyone has something in them that a lot of the times drives the decisions that they make as far as who to date, who to surround themselves with, without us realizing it, influences our decisions. And if you're not aware of what that is, you are more likely to make decisions blindly. So again, take the time to learn about your trauma wound. Not so that you can sulk in this place of, oh my gosh, this happened to me and this happened to me and this is why my life is unfair, and just no, not so you can become a victim of your own trauma mentally and emotionally. It's not that, okay? So please don't take this as me saying just sit there in therapy for 10 years and be depressed about your past. I'm saying take the time, however long that may be. Everyone has a different time frame, but you need to set time aside before you start dating, before you get into a serious relationship. Take the time, set that time aside to learn about your trauma wound, not so that you can let it define you, but so that it can prepare you, so that it can inform you to make better decisions when it comes time to date, when it comes time to choose the kind of person, the kind of man that's going to be in your life. Okay, there's that old quote, when you know better, you do better. When you know better, you can do better, is kind of what I would say to that, because it doesn't guarantee 100% of the time that you're going to do better, you're going to choose to do better, or you're going to get a better outcome just because you happen to know more information. You can know a lot of information and still choose kind of the dumbest choice, right? Or you can know a lot of information and still end up in a dumb situation. What I'm saying is it reduces your chances drastically, right? So if I'm looking at this from a statistical viewpoint, just kind of logically and data driven, statistic driven, it will reduce your chances because now you're more aware of all the different variables in every situation. It's almost like you're looking at things a little bit more methodically, a little bit more logically, a little bit more intentionally. So you're seeing all the factors, all the variables in this formula that you're creating as you're talking to this specific person. You're taking a look at what you're bringing into the equation, what they're bringing into the equation. It's literally like a formula, and you're looking at those variables to see, I can predict, I can hypothesize what the outcome of this is going to be based on these variables. But if you have no idea what the variables are, what you're bringing into the equation and what they're bringing into the equation, let's not even get into what they're bringing into the equation. Actually, let me stay on us, on just ourselves. If you have no idea what you're bringing into the equation, you're not ready to make those kinds of decisions. So it's to your benefit. If you find out what you're drawn to, why you're drawn to what you're drawn to, you, because of the wound or because of the pain, the trauma, the wound that you have, we all have some kind of pain. When you find out what you're drawn to and why you're drawn to that, you will be less likely to choose it. Now, let me backtrack. You'll be less likely to choose it blindly, meaning you might still choose it, but at least you'll know that you're choosing it, right? You'll know that you're choosing it, and you'll still go ahead and choose it, and you'll know why, but it will be your choice. It won't be something that you're doing blindly from a place of ignorance, from a place of, oh, well, I never knew that mother issues or my father issues or this trauma or this situation, this abuse caused me to be more likely or more prone to be drawn to these kinds of people. It won't be because you're ignorant, because you didn't know. Now, if you choose to do it anyway because you knew, that's a different story. And there's a lot of that too. But what I could say is you will reduce your chances if you try to at least find out the why behind your choices, behind who you're drawn to. Right? So again, free will is always going to come into play. Sometimes we knowingly choose what's bad for us because it's too hard. It's too hard to deal with the uncertain. It's too hard to deal with the alternative. It's too hard to try something that is out of our comfort zone because we've become so familiar and so comfortable with the uncomfortable, with the pain, with the trauma, with the drama. There's a lot of reasons why. But if you learn more, you're more likely to make an educated decision. And usually educated decisions are more responsible decisions, or are decisions that are better for you, that take your well-being more into consideration. They're educated for your benefit because you're educating yourself on how to better treat yourself and look out for yourself. So that's the first piece I would share. Find out what that pain is, find out what that driving pain behind a lot of your choices is, and you'll be less likely to make the more irresponsible decision. Now, that doesn't mean you always will. That leads me to my next point. You might still choose unhealthy relationships because it's too scary. It's too scary to sit there alone with the pain, which leads me to my next point. You really need to avoid romantic relationships, avoid dating until you have a healthy circle of human connection already in your life. A lot of people end up rushing into dating, getting into any relationship out there just so they don't have to be alone, so that they can fill that natural void, which is perfectly natural as a human being to want connection, right? To want physical connection, physical contact, emotional, psychological, connection and engagement and interaction. That's perfectly normal. But if you make a romantic partner the first and only and main sole source of that connection for you, again, you're setting yourself up to be more likely to end up in a situation that's not right for you and ending up in that situation much longer than you need to. So please, 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 if you don't have a healthy circle, and this circle doesn't have to be 20 people, 20 friends, one good friend is better than 10 fake friends. I'm talking about genuine human connection. It could be one family member, two good friends, or two people in your family that you're close to, and one good friend, whatever circle, however big or small it is. But if it is genuine human connection that feeds you, that feeds that void. And when I say void, it's a natural, healthy need, okay? That nourishes and meets that need for you. Start with that first before you allow yourself to make any kind of decision on who you're going to date. Okay? Because if you're not feeding yourself, you'll be starving, and starving people will eat anything. Okay? When you're starving, you will eat anything. Now, when you're not hungry and you're feeding yourself, think about it. Think about it during the day. If you're eating and you're nourishing your body with some good, healthy food, you already have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner set up. You know where you're going to get your next meal from for breakfast. You know what your lunch is going to be. You know what your dinner is going to be. You're less likely to eat random things throughout the day. Okay. Now, again, you're less likely, statistics, right? You're reducing your risk of eating junk food, but it doesn't eliminate the possibility of you eating junk food. Okay. It reduces the risk of you eating junk food, reduces the risk of you choosing some unhealthy person. It doesn't eliminate it though, again, because we have free will. But if we're talking about making smart, logical decisions, looking at a formula, looking at variables, being educated, being informed, then it definitely matters and it's important for you to reduce those chances as much as possible. Okay, so going back to that kind of junk food analogy, sometimes, even though if we think back to just our lives, I know even if you've eaten something healthy that day, even if you're not hungry, sometimes you still have cravings. Sometimes you just love a certain kind of junk food. Even if you've eaten everything you need to for that day, if you want junk food and you love junk food, you love junk food. So some people still knowingly go in there and say, today's my cheat day. Right? How many of us have done it? Oh, I ate good this week. Today's my cheat day. Right? Because we have that craving for something sugary, something that's not good for us. Same with a relationship. You may be having that circle of close friends. You may have the people, oh, I did good this week. I went out with my girlfriend and we went to the movies and I saw my family and we had some quality time, and so I'm feeding myself with healthy human connection. And then Friday gets here and we're like, okay, cheat day. I want some sugar. I want some high calories. What does that do? Right? It's the same, just like with any kind of diet. Over time, those hot Cheetos, and I say hot Cheetos because that's one of my guilty pleasures, hot Cheetos. Over time, that junk food, it's going to do what? It's going to lead to disease. It could lead to cholesterol. It could lead to diabetes. It could lead to all sorts of health complications. So over time, those cheat days for us in relationships, when we're going out with these people that we shouldn't be going out with, we're letting people into our lives that we shouldn't be letting into our lives, they lead to the same thing. So that's why it's so important to be mindful, to set yourself up for success, and also be aware that your free will sometimes, even though you have everything set up just right and you have all the information and all the data, at the end of the day, it's still going to be your choice. And you just have to choose to want better, to want more. You just have to choose and say, ugh, it's just not worth it. Which leads me to my last point, okay? The choice you make is going to be based off of what you want the most, which is why it's so important that you set your goals. Set your goal for your life as early as you can. Start writing down that vision, that dream, that goal for yourself, because that's what's going to help you in those moments when you've eaten healthy all week long and you have that cheat meal desire, in this scenario. That's what's going to help you make the choice, because in the long run, you have a vision of yourself. When you get that craving for that unhealthy relationship, for that toxic partner, that toxic man that comes around, wants to give you attention that you need, and it's that sugar rush and that quick endorphins that you need, you have to make a choice at that moment. And it's going to be easier, right? You're more likely, if we're looking at statistics again, you're more likely to make the right choice if you have a vision, if you have a goal, an ultimate goal in mind for yourself, because you'll be able to see, okay, I could have him come over, or I could go hang out with him, I could stay in this relationship, or I could start this relationship, but it's going to deter me from reaching that goal. And I love that goal. That's my dream. That's my vision. And it's worth more than this temporary sugar rush, right? So it's so important that you start thinking and developing that dream, that love, that goal for yourself that's going to keep you focused and help you make the tough decisions when they come up, because they will come up. It's not if they come up, they will come up. Okay? Because when you're choosing who to date, you're going to be looking at them from the perspective of, okay, this is my goal. This is the destination I have. Let's say in this scenario, you want to get to Mount Everest, right? Choosing a partner, a life partner that's going to help you get to Mount Everest looks a lot different than choosing a life partner when you don't know where you're going. If you already know your destination, where you're trying to get to, where you're trying to be, that informs, educates your decision a lot more, right? Than if your destination was to make it to Hawaii, to the ocean, to the beach. You want to make it to the beach, you're going to find a partner that's going to help you reach that goal. That's going to be a good partner because you both want the same things. You both love the beach. You both love being in the sand. You both love being in the water. There you go. You're going to be informed. But if you meet that person and they're always criticizing your love of water, and they're saying, "Oh my goodness, I hate water. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be around people that do it." You're going to recognize that language and you're going to say, "You know what? This is going to keep me back and deter me from reaching the ocean." Or it's going to keep me from reaching the top of that mountain. I want to climb this mountain. I want to be a mountain climber. Whatever your goal and your destination is, it has to be clear enough so that when you're choosing a partner and you're letting someone into your life, you can choose them based off of how they feed that, how they nourish that, or if they suck the life out of you and deter you from that. So just to recap those 3 things that I spoke about. Take the time to learn about your trauma wound, okay? So you can have a higher probability of making better choices. Even if you don't always make the right choice, you'll have a higher chance of making the right one, and you'll reduce your chances of making decisions that could put yourself in harm's way. Second piece, avoid dating until you have a healthy circle of human connection that's already feeding you, that's already providing you with that warmth, with that attention, with that nourishment that every human needs. Someone to talk to, someone to laugh with, someone to share ideas and feelings and thoughts with. Have a healthy circle already so that you don't put yourself in a situation where someone else can take advantage of that need, can take advantage of that hunger because you're starving for physical human connection. They can take advantage of that, and you can set yourself up for a really, really dangerous situation where you're hungry and you're needy and you shouldn't be. And last but not least, set your goals, set your visions, your dreams for your life before bringing anyone else along for the ride. You have to have that vision, you have to have that dream already in your mind before you decide who's going to come along, okay? Because they have to be able to contribute to that, to feed it somehow, whether it's just cheering you on, whether it's just giving you words of encouragement. as long as they're not getting in the way of that, as long as they're not seeking to deter you from that, or wanting you to fail in that, but they have to be a part of that. You have to know, you have to have something in you telling you this person can be a part of that. That's all I'll have for today, but if something else comes up or anyone wants to share any of their own, please put them down below and share, because this is an opportunity now with all this coverage for us to come together and just share things with one another to help prevent it from happening again. We can't count on all these news stories to do it for us. They're not educating, they're not informing, they're not passing on any real helpful advice, so we have to do it.